Hi Kim, I'm just gonna show you those exercises that we went over quickly together just in this quick little video for yourself. And then I'll also include some additional resources, some links to some like longer videos that you can watch over the break or whenever you have time. And hopefully those will kind of just help contribute, give you some ideas of like what to do outside of what I've kind of shown you, and maybe even some ideas of how to kind of progress and just like play around with other stuff. Um, since you guys seem to be really interested in, not only just getting better, but also the education and everything around it. So give those, just additional information, not necessarily needed, but please feel free to dive into those videos if you want to. So those couple things that we went over, we're sort of addressing or trying to address what might have happened with the hip flexor, maybe a bit of the groin, thinking about the movement of injury, and then also kind of just how the hip can get irritated when it yanks out in that sort of direction. So we talked about a hip capsule mobilization, Kim, where you would place your right leg sort of in front of you like so. This might even be a bit of a better side angle here. Your right leg kind of in front of yourself. You can go into a little bit of external rotation, but not a ton, like we're doing a pigeon stretch or anything. And then we want to think about sitting back into that hip a little bit, right? So we're looking at kind of trying to lift our hip and sit back into it. So the head of our femur bone is going back into the capsule. I had you wedge your leg sort of behind yourself, and the leg doesn't have to go on the ground, but then you can kind of press against it with your right leg and get a little bit of tension there as you kind of slide backwards a little bit. So the goal here, and if we're doing it right, we should feel a nice kind of hip mobilization stretch kind of in through our back hip there. Sorry about the kitty. There's no set rule for that stretch, Kim, for time limit or anything like that, but spend a good amount of time, maybe in between 1 to 3 minutes, and stop there, get up and feel if you were able to create like a deep stretch sensation, but like it should feel like, a little bit better after you're done that, not worse for sure. What would be a nice follow-up to that mobilization would be to utilize the ground and, don't be uncomfortable on the floor like I'm doing here. Get something comfy under your leg. Then we can kind of sit back into our hips, and we're gonna push and slide out so we get a stretch in this high groin area here. Now, when I mean push, we're just sort of pushing our leg and hip a little bit into the floor as we're sliding to create like a little bit of a loaded stretch. And we can slide back in. If you want, you can come as close as you can to your opposite leg right underneath. So we're shortening the groin a little bit and we're sliding out. And as we slide out, we're probably gonna kind of slide back a little bit as well. Like so here, maybe you come forward a little bit, that's okay. But then as you really push this high groin stretch out, sit back a little bit into your hips, come back. And you can play around with that a little bit. Again, there's no real rules there. We're trying to stretch that high groin portion and give it some active movement, but explore a little bit with that, Kim. It might even feel nice to even just utilize that connection from your hip into the ground with a pillow or something, and to do some small circles with your hip. So it's kind of mimicking that movement, but it's also just giving that hip joint and other kind of tissues a little bit of a stretch too. So if I was to show you what that would look like from the side, well, first let's do what we were doing. So starting here, pushing out And you see how I kind of end up sliding back a little bit. But I really could just stay right here. Pushing out. Good. And then what else I did there was maybe let's explore a little bit. We can use that connection and kind of keep pushing into the ground as we just move that hip through a little bit of different and more range of motion than we were previously doing. Awesome. I would then try, if we can, I'll show you how to get into some more specific